Welcome, Fireside Adoptees. I'm excited to be here with you today. Thank you for joining us for our Adoptee Fire Speaker Series. And I am so honored to introduce you to today's guest, Lorah Gerald. You know her as the Adopted Chameleon, and she's just an amazing woman, and I'm so thankful that I have an opportunity to get to know her. She's a domestic adoptee from the baby scoop era, and her adoptee journey has really led her to some amazing um, uh, positions in life. She's a blogger, a yoga instructor, a Reiki healer, and a minister. Just an amazing woman, and I'm so happy to facilitate her story with you tonight. And as a blogger myself, I really truly admire her authenticity and her adopted voice. She's just a breath of fresh air and speaks her truth so eloquently and really inspires all of us to be better. So I'm excited to introduce Lorah, and also excited to let you know that she will be making a special announcement, never communicated previously. So please stay with us and you'll be one of the first people to hear it. Welcome, Lorah.
Hi. Wow, what an introduction. That was overwhelming. I was like, "Oh my God, have I done those things?" This imposter syndrome started setting in, and I was like, "Yes, I have. You sit up tall. Yes, you have."
That's right. Oh my gosh, you've accomplished so much and you're continuing to just really pave new ground. So I'm so excited to be here with you today and to share your story. And one of the things that I've actually been following you since 2020, and the name of your platform is so interesting and so meaningful. So let's start there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about why you chose the Adopted Chameleon and what that means to you?
Well, number one, I thought as an adoptee, saying I was a chameleon was original. I found out no, not even close to original. It was like I think I was in Adoption Mosaic back in 2019 or something, and they had Lynn Grubb's book up and it had a chameleon on it, and I was like, boom! It like hit me right between the eyes, and I was like, wow, I wasn't. Was not original, but it was another one of the epiphanies that I had with language, like when we say we're an alien or a ghost family, things like this, that I would hear for the first time that I'd only heard in my own head prior to that, that I realized that I wasn't going through this alone. So yeah, chameleon.
I think it's so relatable. And I love how you say we're all adopted chameleons, because it's true. You know, we have to adapt to survive, and that's what
We
adoptees
do.
do.
Literally, the once we're separated from our mothers, we have to adapt to survive. I mean, that's it. That's the statement right there. Oh, and as a kid, I loved to dress up. I still do.
I love it.
And I had many, and as you've said, I've worn many hats. So I just kind of adapt and change a lot. So it was fitting for me.
I love it. It's great. So relatable too. So in my research, I see you were adopted from Tennessee in the baby scoop era. Can you tell us what you know about your earliest days and the situation of your adoption and what you've discovered?
Yeah, but before I move on, I did want, when you mentioned adopted chameleons, can I hit that just one moment?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because the hashtag adopting chameleons, I started that, and some of y'all may have seen this, is I started taking people's stories and putting graphics to them and letting them post on my page. And it was because literally I was getting so many messages from adoptees saying, thank you for saying this. I couldn't say it, blah, blah, blah. And either it was they don't have their own platform, don't want to have their own platform, or seriously aren't allowed to speak their truth. So whatever the reason was, I was like, that's sad. They should be whole, whether they want to spend the time to get their own platform or they just literally can't and just want to be anonymous. So I did start the Adopted Chameleons, and anybody can email me at lorahwg@gmail.com. and just submit what you want. It could be a sentence, a thought, your whole story. If it's your whole story, we might have to break it into a few segments. But what I do is I come up with the graphic, send it back to them, and then they literally say yes or no. They like it or not. It's not going to hurt my feelings. And then I say, okay, if this is okay with you, the content, everything's fine, we're posting. And so it's another avenue for adoptees to get their stories out. So I just wanted to, for those that might not have known that, to know that they can share on another platform.
That's so great for you to do that, because it's so important. I think at Fireside Adoptees, everyone here would agree, we need more adoptees telling their stories, and you facilitating that ability to do so, even anonymously, is a huge step in the right direction. So thank you so much for giving us that space and helping adoptees use their voices.
Well, thank you. And I've even told people that comment on my page that adamantly do not agree with me. I've even recommended that they start their own platforms too, and then I'll follow them. You know, I don't have to agree with them, but I want more people talking about the adoption story, even if I don't agree with them. So like you said, we need more people talking about it.
Absolutely. And that's such a great response. I'll have to remember that, because we don't all agree, but at the same time, you know, everyone's entitled to their voice, and you're doing the hard work of educating on, you know, a topic that society just doesn't really see the reality of. So it's so important.
Yeah. And it's not a sarcastic response, I swear. It's an honest response, because you never, excuse me, when you're typing, you never know how somebody's going to react to that. And I really do mean it. Talk about it, you know, I'll follow you.
It's true. That's great.
Why don't we talk?
Oh,
I threw you off. I apologize.
No worries. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what you know about the, you know, scenario of your adoption and what happened in the baby scoop era, and maybe help people understand what that means to you.
Yes, I was a 1966 baby scoop, just barely, January 3rd, so just barely into 1966. I don't remember. I was an adoptee that does not remember being told I was adopted. I always knew I was adopted. My parents, back then, there was no home study stuff that I'm aware of. I guess they did come to the house, because I found that in the paperwork. It was the baby's a blank slate, and all you need is love. That's pretty much the instructions you got with an adoptee back then. They weren't told about trauma. They were not giving any instructions at all. And a part of me, that's one of the things I really, why I speak about this a lot, is because my adoptive parents literally weren't told. So if you know, you have the knowledge and you can go look for it. My adoptive parents were never told back then. So I'm sorry I got off on a tangent there, but you have to know what you know so you can go find what you're looking for in that regard. And they just thought love was enough. That's it.
So true. And we talked about that when we were kind of, you know, preparing for this conversation. And that's one of those many areas that, you know, I have a very similar point of view on, and I write about too. Love just isn't enough. Even the most positive, loving adoptive parents cannot heal the trauma. And it's such an important message, because you know, adoptees need support, and I just wish everyone understood that basic truth, because it is a reality.
Right. It's a non-judgmental truth. I made a statement on a post the other day. I said, because this is so prevalent now, if a child was in a school shooting, they would be traumatized, whether they were adopted or not. They would need help, correct? We wouldn't be debating that. This wouldn't be a debate. So if we just go at it as a non-judgmental look at it, that it's a trauma, we're not judging. We just need to treat it.
Absolutely. Well said.
Thank you. Baby scoop era. Yep. See, I got one of those brains that does that. Hang on, it might be a ride. Yes, my parents never told, so I didn't get any kind of help well until I realized it as an adult, and my parents were gone, which they had their own traumas, which is another thing that people think, well, I can't have children, so if I have a child, it's going to make me feel better. The family units, all put together and everything's yay, fairy tale. No, my parents died with trauma. So, because they never treated their own traumas. And then there were three of us. So, loved each other, good parents, still traumatized. Again,
Right.
non-judgmental statement. I had a closed adoption, knew nothing about my mother or father, family, nothing. I wasn't allowed to get my non-identifying information from the state of Tennessee until 1995. And I wrote to the state of Tennessee saying, can I please have my information? Because it's mine. Can I have it, please? So they said, yes, you can. We'll give it to you for some money. We want $150. And I said, are you kidding me?
Wow.
I'm in college supporting myself in an apartment. I don't have $150. Oh, and they were going to charge me at that time. I'm sorry, at that time it was $125 and 10 cents for each piece of paper. So I
Wow.
was like, I don't have that kind of money. So I had to show them I was poor. Literally humiliate myself. I'm poor. I don't have that kind of money. So, because it was already so much fun doing this. No drama there. I was in my mid-20s, already having a lot of issues. And so begging these people for my my documents. Finally, they said, all right, we see you're poor. We'll give them to you for $50. And I was like, fine. Here's
Wow.
your $50 and 10 cents a piece of paper. There really wasn't much in there, so the 10 cents piece of paper didn't add up to much. But they sent it to me. I blocked this part. They had done a search for my mother, and all I got was this thing saying the search had ended. Here's your non-identifying information. So that part I had. So I had it in front of me so I could see it, even though I completely erased that sentence of the search. And so skip ahead. I got nothing out of it, but that piece of paper, it says, they're this tall, they got blonde hair, blue eyes, brown hair, whatever, yada, yada. Really nothing. But I actually got a birth certificate in there with my birth mother's address on it.
Oh.
And her name. Whoopsie.
Identifying.
Identifying information. Somebody made a mistake. Yes, they did. Thank you, universe.
Right?
No, it wasn't a coincidence. My adopted cousin, which is the exact same age as my biological mother. Long story, my dad was a late in life kid. Anyway, so my first cousins are as old as almost as old as my parents. So she found my birth mother in Richmond, Virginia, and spoke to her. And my birth mother said, if she looks for me, I will get a restraining order. I don't want my husband or my daughters to know about it. And I was like, well, I guess I wasn't a daughter of hers. Where'd I come out of? So that part I erased too from my memory. It was like, it's amazing what your brain can do to you. That's all we'll go into that later. And it was like every so often I would write her a letter or try to call. Once I got a cell phone, I still have the same cell phone number I called her on years ago when I got it. So I did try to contact her multiple times after that. I guess it's like after enough time passes, you can forget and get over the trauma and you do it again. I know y'all can relate. I don't have to go into that. But she never spoke to me until she never spoke to me. I was going to say until her death, and that'll be in the book. But
Yeah.
There's got to be some things that are going to be surprises. Uh, I found my sisters in 1990. No, 2019. Yes, it's 2022.
Okay. And you started searching in 95, right?
Yes, and
So
then
there are many phases to your search.
yes, so it was one of those before DNA, social media, all that stuff. So it was like I was literally writing to an address because she owned a business. So I was writing to that and to the address on the birth certificate. And then I found her phone number because I knew her name and called her at her a new address. Lo and behold, I was actually contacting all the right places. My sisters did indeed say, yep, that was it. You called the right number, you wrote the right address. And they were like, wait a minute, why did our mother not? And so, yeah, their brains went. And one of them talks to me and one of them doesn't. We'll say that. So that's how that reunion went. And then I found my father last year. It would be a year in May that I've known him. As a matter of fact, I have a video chat scheduled in the morning with him. He was in Vietnam when I was born. He didn't know anything. And I have a sister from his side, and of course she didn't know anything either. So surprise.
No one should be a secret.
Yes, no one should be a secret, especially by their own mother. I'm just going to say, because this is what people tell me all the time, and it's so lovely. It feels so good when they tell me this. Well, she has every right. And I'm like, okay, you're right. She does. Thank you for reminding me, number one, because I already know. She does. You're right. But I'm going to say, if you have a human being in your body for 9 months, that was part of you, that was also part of your mother, generations, and you give birth to it, I think that you, at some point, should look it in the eyes and explain why you're not going to talk to it. And that's accountability. That's all that is accountability. If you still don't, that's fine. You can do that. But you should never, ever ignore a human being like they don't exist, because she literally turned me into a living abortion. I have to live with the fact knowing that she never wanted me. And I live with that daily.
It's so hard. You speak the truth so passionately, and I feel the pain. And as someone who's never spoken or even seen a picture of my mother or grew up without a mother, I can relate, because I feel like, she obviously doesn't want to be found, and she obviously doesn't want to, to have to even acknowledge. And I think your point about accountability is so important, because yes, we don't have to have a relationship, but you made this choice, and you have to own it. And we all deserve to know why. We all deserve to know more.
We're human beings, and we deserve to be treated like that. That is actually a form of torture, ignoring people. They use the word torture.
So true.
In psychology, I looked it up. I was looking up some psychology, and there it was, being ignored. And I was like, wow, yeah, I know that. I feel it. You feel it in your soul, and that's part of why I do the yoga. Can you mind if I just go into that right now? Because
Not at all.
it feels like a good spot right here, because you're literally, when your energy comes into your breathing body and your soul is integrated in there and it knows that it's not wanted, it shatters. That is an energy force that shatters in there. And the baby goes into survival mode, that cortisol dump, and it is full on going, I am going to freak out, because it knows it has to survive right now. It thinks mother's dead, or something, obviously dead, because babies can't over process things. And so that soul has to be put back together because of the trauma. And that's why we call it trauma. I mean, we can prove this now. It's not, even though I am going to talk about energy levels, they can prove all of these things, and they've been able to prove them for thousands of years with yoga, but science now can see energy in the body. And I mean, they put pacemakers on your heart. It's an electrical pulse keeping you alive, right? Okay, so that's like a good visual, it's a pulse going through you. And when those pulses get off, you have to realign them in your body. They call them chakras. And you have to realign them so that your body can put itself back into a homeostasis state so you can have healing in that. I don't know if you all know this book. I picked this out because I want to read it to everybody. It's, you see it? Waking the Tiger by Peter Levine, Healing Trauma. I just want to read this little passage to you.
Great.
Okay. It says, come back to your country, to your people, to the yurt, by the bright fire. Come back to your father, to your mother. A crucial parameter in the healing of trauma is reflected in the simple poetry. The welcoming support of friends, relatives, families, or tribal members is needed to coax the spirit back into the traumatized body. There's a lot of good stuff in this book. I'm just going to tell you. He talks about felt senses. He gives you, he gives you breathing routines and stuff, just like what I do when I teach my yoga classes. He talks a lot about that. Anybody that's read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, he talks about yoga, meditation, things like that. So that's what I do in my yoga classes. And I'll just keep going. Kundalini yoga is the yoga of awareness. Some of them call it, it's the yoga that you throw the kitchen sink at. It's got everything in it because it's got chanting, it's got breath work, it's got movement, it's got meditation. You're literally integrating your energetic body and your physical form back. And how I'm doing that is with your vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in your body that connects everything. I'm stressing it. I'm taking that parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system and I'm doing this to it. I'm stressing it, I'm relaxing it, and then I'm balancing it back out in a healthy way. Because when we practice these things, they become part of who we are. Bad things we practice become part of who we are too. And that's the trauma thing that's in there that we have to figure out how to get that balanced out. So this yoga that I teach does that. And I do it donation based because I want people to try it. If you don't like it, that's fine. Find something that will get you moving. I don't do only yoga, and that's, you should do other things. And anybody tells you they're the only way, walk away.
It's that toolbox, right?
Yes, it's the toolbox. Yes, thank you. It's the toolbox. Load it up. Dance, go walk in nature, go play in the dirt, gardening, write, journal. We all know these tools, but a lot of people that aren't trauma informed don't know these tools. And so that's why I try to offer this donation base to not only adoptees, to everyone. But I do have an adoptees only yoga coming back up again. Let me see. April 6th, 5 to 7 Central Time.
Oh, that's coming up soon.
Yes, Wednesday night. We had 9 last time, and we had some people that had never done yoga in their life. And we had ages from teenagers to, I don't know, all of us.
That's great. I love that you do that. And I know when we posted about this interview, we had some people talk about your yoga classes. So your adoptee yogis are really into it, and it's so important. And I want to talk a little bit about, before you found yoga, this physical connection that you experienced. And we talked about trauma and how it's stored in the body. When you were a child, you had a physical reaction to trauma that you later processed. Can you unpack that a little bit for us?
Yeah, as a young person, a child, young person, adult, probably until my 40s, I think I did this. I would shake and not know I was shaking. And people would go, "Oh, honey, are you cold?" Or as a child, they go, "Oh, sweetie, are you cold?" Or as an adult, someone go, "Lorah, you need a jacket or something?" And I would become aware of what I was doing. And it always was, I would have instantly like an embarrassment. And I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm just cold. Thanks," because I didn't realize I was doing it. And I noticed every time I would feel just overwhelmingly embarrassed. And it was just odd. But I later realized that shaking was literally my body, just like an animal, because, well, we're animals. In case y'all don't know, we're animals. Like a wild animal in the wild that gets shocked and shakes it off. That's what I was doing without knowing I was doing it.
It's amazing that you made that connection, because I think as children, we don't understand the feelings that we have as adoptees. And I know when we were talking about that, I was thinking about, my own physical habits that I didn't realize until I was an adult. I, grinded my teeth as a
Yep,
child, and
I
I
still do.
clenched my fist, and I'm very tight, and you don't think about it. And then when you learn about trauma and being adopted, it all makes sense. And you talk about epiphanies. I mean, that one really was major for me. And I think it's makes such a good thread to the reason that the yoga is so helpful, because you're able to really let it go and to have that physical experience.
Yes, in a safe way, in a healthy practice. Well, that's why they call yoga a practice. You're never going to master it. You're always going to be practicing, because some days on the mat, you might not be feeling it. You might want to move a little bit slower. And I always teach that in my class. It's your practice. It's not my practice. You're not here to impress me. It's your practice. You want to turn the screen off and do whatever? Fine. It's your practice. You're here for you. So it's where you're at. I always say it's where you're at on the mat. Just show up, because that energy, literally, when we're alchemists, by the way, too, we're all alchemists. We can change our energy in our body. Every single one of us can do that, and we can do it intuitively. Once we learn to calm our brains down, we'll start listening to ourselves. Get another thing this yoga does, it starts expanding that awareness so that you can calm your mind. And you can start intuitively listening to that inner child and your higher self and all of you. And you know what you need to do, literally. That's what meditation is, EMDR, all of these things are just calming your mind so you can literally tell yourself what you need to know. And so practicing this helps that. We're always going to practice.
Makes total sense. And thank you for bringing that to the adoptee community.
Thank you for sharing it, all of you all, and being open to it. Like I said, it's donation based. You can just give it a shot. If you don't like it, that's fine. It's okay to not like things, but you might go, that's different. What's happening in my body right now, I kind of like that. Maybe I should try it again. And there are YouTube videos and other things. Like I said, it's not just me. I went and smashed stuff yesterday. That's another somatic experience.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. I have always wanted to do that. How was it?
That was so good. It's called Smash Something in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And it's this room you go in and you can either bring your own stuff, or he has these things you can buy and you pay to use the room, and you have gloves and mask on, you're covered up, and you just whack the hell out of everything. I highly, highly recommend it.
I put it on my Christmas list, but I think people thought it was a joke, so I'll have to go treat myself. Some smashing self-care.
Yes, it is. Because anger is an emotion, and it's okay to be angry. My therapist told me this was one of the best things I ever got out of cognitive therapy. She said, well, it's normal to be angry. And I went, what? Back up. What'd you just say there? And she said, what happened to you was abnormal. So it's normal to be angry. And I went,
another epiphany, right?
Yeah, another one of those aha moments. You're like, oh, So sitting with anger is okay. Sometimes anger is a motivator. It's what you do with it. It really is. It's how you react to the emotion.
Better to take it out on things than people.
Exactly. It's going to come out
In a
one way or
safe
another.
space,
Yeah.
right?
And that's the thing. It is going to come out. All of these things are going to come out of us. All of these negative emotions are going to come out. They're either going to make us sick. They're going to break our faces out. Our stomachs are going to be upset, because the stomach is a bigger brain than our brain, by the way. If you don't know that, that's why a lot of adoptees have stomach issues and things, or you can literally feel it in your stomach. You're like, oh, I'm dreading that. And you do this, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Try to self-soothe, but
Yes.
it's all connected.
Wrong. And that energy of us and others are connected too. So when we take that better energy and alchemize it and integrate our positive energy, when we're around people, that energetic field that goes all the way around us affects the people around us. And we can literally be the lighthouse and shine that beacon on people and control the energy in a room. Yeah, that's magic, people. That's our real magic. And we all have that, every single one of us.
I love that.
See, the magic's in you.
We are magic.
Yes.
And we're survivors.
Yes, because we adapted.
Because we're all chameleons.
That's right, adopted chameleons.
So I found an interesting highlight on your Instagram page about a conversation you had with your father. And we kind of bonded over this because I can totally relate. So I would love for you to share that story with us.
Oh, the aliens.
Yes.
The other language word, alien. Yes, I always thought I was an alien as a child. And my adopted father, he was a salesperson when I was real young. I know I had to be older than 3, because the house we lived in, we moved there when I was 3. So I was older than that. I'm guessing 4 or 5 at this time. And I lived in Johnson City, Tennessee, up in the mountains, beautiful place. And you could see the stars because it's the mountains. I'm out in the front yard looking at the stars because, again, as a kid, I knew how to self-soothe. So I'm out there in my bare feet in the ground, staring at the stars, self-soothing myself. And all of a sudden, I started seeing things that didn't look right. And I started flipping out. And my adopted mother, apparently I made such a big deal of it that she had to get a family friend to come over and try to help me. I don't remember all the details, but I was just like, I thought the aliens were coming to get me. And, which led to a discussion of me and my father going, yeah, I watched the Ancient Aliens. And then we started talking about Ancient Aliens. And I just thought, well, this makes so much sense that I'm talking to my biological father about aliens. Yeah, it was such a silly conversation, but it was awesome.
I love that. I definitely felt like an alien growing up. So
I still do.
I saw, yeah, that's a great point.
I'm pretty sure I am. So it's okay. We all are, actually, because we're made of stardust. Literally.
There you go.
That's physics. Are we ready to do an announcement?
Yeah, I think this is a good time. I had a couple more questions for you, but I don't want to. I just wanted you to speak to something that I heard you say that's so important. 2 things, actually. One about the secrecy of adoption, which we touched on earlier, but you also said something really powerful about being whole. And we talked about that a little bit.
The truth makes you whole.
That's it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Help us just talk about that, because it's so true and so important. I want to make sure that message gets out.
Well, and that goes back to the energy. Until you honestly know who you are, your truth, you can't be whole, because you're living someone else's truth. until you know your truth. And again, you have to integrate your soul back together to find your truth. This is Jung, this is Freudian, this is Nietzsche. I mean, these are philosophies and psychologies that you can look up. You have to know your truth. And being denied it should be criminal, not celebrated. That is, to us, it makes so much sense. But the billion-dollar adoption industry has done a very good marketing campaign and made everybody think that, no, you're helping the baby. But they're catering to people that want children, not to children that need homes. See, want, need. There's a verse, is it a want or is it a need? Mm-hmm. You're not going to not exist if you don't have children. Yes, it will be a trauma. Yes. And you do need help, but you will survive. That child, if a child doesn't have a family, honestly, they will not survive. Children will not survive. So, yes, they will have to have a family, but most children have a family when they're born. They have a mother, unless something happens, they have a mother. So, yeah, you gotta find your truth.
It's so powerful. It's our right, and it is absolutely so important to really, on this journey of self-discovery. You can't really know yourself without that information, and it's so terrible that it's kept from us on purpose. As you said, it's cruel. And
it is cruel. My birth mother had breast cancer twice for years. I should have had that information. I mean, why would I not have that information? And my adopted parents, why wouldn't they need to know that information? I mean, you all know going to the doctor, that's another trauma. You get that form and you're like, I finally, the first time this year, first time in my life, there was a box to check that said adopted. I did a double take. It was one of these. I went, what? And checked that box as fast as I could.
That should be the norm, because every single time, you're right, you feel it, and it just reminds you of your missing pieces. And going to the doctor should not be a downer.
And when we check that box, we get instantly checked for free for everything.
Absolutely. We shouldn't have to pay for, we shouldn't have to pay for our birth certificates. We shouldn't have to pay for DNA. Yes.
Exactly. But all the expense falls on the adoptee.
Yeah.
I mean, if they want to search. But I mean, if you want to get your own records, which most people want their birth certificate.
It's all right.
I would think, but if not, that's fine. I'm not going to speak for everybody.
Yeah. But if it's a choice, but
it is a choice.
It's also a right. And that's what needs to change, that thinking that it's not. All right, so let's make your announcement. This is the first time that you're sharing this, right? Anywhere. You haven't written about it. You haven't spoken about it on other platforms. Fireside Adoptees. Nope. This is the first, our group today is the first to hear this. So go ahead.
This is the first, you all are the first group to hear about this. And it's going to be me and another adoptee. You all probably have heard of her. Her name is Emma Stevens. She's the author of The Gathering Place. Her and I are bringing Reckoning with the Primal Wound to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to a first theater screening here in Tulsa. Oh, here's a picture of the theater. It's the oldest movie theater in Tulsa. It is a nonprofit, and they are ecstatic that we are bringing it. Rebecca is ecstatic. The film is actually here in Tulsa right now. The tech guys got it. And I think that everybody should do a hashtag adoptee road trip over here to Tulsa. Just get your all booties in some seats. May 15th. May 15th. You have time to plan. I actually have added a link on my website. I posted it. It's LorahGerald.com. It's just my name. And there's a link on there. And it talks about the film. It talks about the theater. It even talks about things to do in Tulsa. If you all do show up, I'm going to take you someplace to have the best pizza you've ever had in your life.
Fantastic. Thank you for doing that. It's so important. And all of the things that we talked about, that, raising awareness in a mainstream sense, bringing the movie to theaters and really sharing the adoptee experience with a larger population is going to make a difference. So thank you for leading that and for really, changing the narrative through your actions.
Well, that's kind of what we were talking about earlier on. I can talk about the trauma of adoption and the realities of it all day long, but now what? We've got to, now what? We know we're traumatized, especially the adoptees we know, and other people involved are traumatized. So now what? We heal in community. So we need the awareness so that we can heal in community. And I would really hope that some of you all can make it here. I had an adoptee road trip last week that we'll talk about in a few minutes, and having 4 adoptees experiencing something together is amazing. Just like this, this, right?
Yes,
here, right?
I wish we had more opportunities in person. Zoom is nice, but nothing beats that, intimacy of just
Right.
being together and sharing space together.
Right. And what was I getting ready to say about the film here? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. Sorry, trauma brain. I'm sorry, I forgot. Never mind.
Oh, no worries. I was just gonna ask you if there's anything else that you'd like to share, or messages are for our Fireside adoptees and everyone else who's listening to the recording.
Yes.
I think your message about filling the toolbox in healthy ways to heal the trauma is so important. So what else would you like us to know?
Oh, I saw the chat, okay, we're okay. The state mottos, we're okay. I'm sorry. And what's funny is we're actually better than okay now. Tulsa's actually a destination city. We have a place called the Gathering Place, and it was voted the #1 attraction when it opened. It's amazing. So, but I just had to laugh because it is funny that was the motto, we're okay. I guess somebody thought that was good at some point. We're better than okay. We really are. If you all come here, I promise you all will have a blast. I will be your tour guide.
Sounds fantastic.
Oh, that was the other thing, is it's not finalized yet, so I can't say who it is, but my goal with this movie is to reach the broader audience, because instead of funneling everything into the triad that know things about adoption, I'm trying to reach other people, because adoptees are overrepresented in prisons, in therapy. We need to reach a broader audience. So we are going to give a part of the proceeds to a local nonprofit here in Tulsa. And I started talking, we haven't finalized it yet, but that'll be announced soon too. So your tickets that you buy will also be helping a nonprofit.
Fantastic.
So we've got win-win-wins going on here. We're layering it up.
I love it. Thank you so much for doing that and leading the way, and all of your wisdom that you shared with us today. This has been a wonderful conversation, and why don't we? Good. We should have more fun, right? I mean, this is heavy stuff, but we have to have fun too.
Have fun.
Where can people find you? Where can your fellow adoptees find you on social media and connect with you?
Okay, I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, and everything. All of that is on my website, LorahGerald.com. Oh, I started a Patreon. I haven't even got to post about that. Well, I kind of did one day, but I need to talk about that too, because there's other ways, to help keep me going, in ways that can help other people. I have a consultation on there. I have just a tip if somebody just wants to tip me, because I have to pay for Zoom and Canva and the website and all of the things that I pay for out of my own pocket because I am not employed except for my yoga instruction and the things that I do, my intuitive readings, tarot and tea, and the things like that I do. That's in my ordained minister. I do weddings. That's how I make my money. So I've started to accept tips, which that was a hard one for me, but I was like, it's an exchange of energy and it's always nice, but it's greatly appreciated, but not required. So I did offer that in there too.
You are valuable. It's an exchange of energy and value. You're helping so many people. So thank you for everything. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. And we'll see you in the next edition of Fireside Adoptees, Adoptee Fire Speaker Series.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Nice to see you.